Okay. Okay, I think it's my turn. There we go. Hi, everybody. Please forgive the tan. I couldn't help it. We did have a good time down there being with our colleagues down in Mexico. We only do this once a year, and it's just great to just focus on us for a little while. So, and thank you, Steve. Let me do my acknowledgments. Thank you, Steve Worthing, wherever you went, sir, probably to the kitchen, for being here last week. Thank you for this amazing new website. I mean, we are just a rocking community. I'm so grateful. Music out of sight. We're just on it. And yet, life continues on, and sometimes life has things in it that we weren't anticipating. You know, I've been, actually when I was thinking about my talk, I wrote down that I've been in this movement for almost 30 years, and I realized I've been in this movement for over 31 years. So I'm obviously not paying attention to how long I've been here, but I've been doing this for a while. And many of you have been doing this for a while. And even if you've just been in it a few months, or if you've been doing it for many years, I want you to know that we never really get to the end of this. I haven't found a way to get to that place where no matter what happens, I got a giggle. I still have that moment where something happens and the worst possible thoughts come into my mind. How many times have I thought someone stole something from me? I mean, things like that. Crazy ideas. And my mind just wants to go there. And I've been thinking about how that works and how probably all of us, I mean, if you want to make yourself an exception to this, that's fine. But my experience is that all of us can still get triggered at times where something unexpected happens and we fall into that state and get ourselves into trouble. Anybody absolutely immune to that? Never happens ever? Oh, look at all the honest people here. This is wonderful. So we have this thing, and I've been kind of analyzing that, and I want to take you through what I am observing and seeing we do as human beings. Even as metaphysicians, we still do this. It begins with an event. Something happens. Something we didn't expect to happen is the kind of event I'm talking about. Because the events that you want to happen, that you focused on, that you've created, and it's turned out the way you imagined, the 2 or 3 times that's happened in your life, you do the happy dance and everything's wonderful and you're on top of the world and you don't have the right to sing the blues. You know, that's the way that works. Great, wonderful, yay. But what if you didn't expect this? What if it's something you weren't counting on at all, and yet there it is, right before your very eyes, an event? Well, as metaphysicians, what we know is that all the events in our lives are neutral. They do not come to us already bad or good or otherwise. They come to us in that neutral state. They're an event. A thing happened. But what do? Do we leave it there? We go, well, there you go. There's a thing that happened. No, of course not. We have to play with it. We have to mess with it. We have to get all involved in it by observing it. Then we see the details of it, but we can't even leave it alone there. We can't just know all the facts. We got to start adding value to it. We decide if it's good or bad, basically. And yes, of course, we work on that idea that nothing is good or bad, except that we make it so. When we do our new member meeting on Saturday, no, I should not say that. When we do our member orientation on Saturday, one of the things we talk about is asking ourselves a question: what am I making this mean? What am I making this mean? And the idea of that is to cause you to stop and think that it was a neutral event and we are turning it into something. But do we really stop and ask ourselves, what are we making this mean? I would love to do that. I wish I could tell you that I have learned how to stop everything. What am I making this mean? It doesn't happen. All of a sudden, I've given it value. Either it's good or it's bad. And like I said before, if it's good, great, wonderful, we move on. If it's bad, though, do we work it? Do we work it? Do we, and of course, if it's something we are now naming bad, now we wonder how far this bad is going to go, how much trouble it's going to create in my life, because it's an unknown. We don't know where it's going because we haven't gone there yet. But our mind can't settle for not knowing. It must create more ideas of how bad this is going to get before it's over. You know? We do it. We play that little game. We go from giving a good or bad to this deep meaning of this is essential to the essence of my very existence. I was done wrong. Or whatever. You know, whatever. Maybe someone criticized us. Maybe the thing that we had been working on didn't turn out the way we imagined. And all of a sudden, all is lost. We don't say it out loud. We do sometimes. We certainly say it to our partners. But we don't come in here with a trumpet and start telling people about how our lives are falling apart and are in shambles because of this event. At some point it was neutral, but now it's just terrible. And we got all caught up in the details of this, and we work it, and work it, and work it. And where do we go from meaning? We go into imagining. What is the worst thing that could happen out of this? Because this thing happened, I'm going to be a bum on the streets. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to, you know, Barbara used to have this thing about being a bag lady. Can you imagine Barbara? Where would she put on her clothes? But still, we imagine that this is really going to be terrible before it's all over. And thank you for admitting that we do that. And then what happens in this metaphysical contortion is that we start influencing the events in our lives based on a neutral event that had nothing until we gave it value and made it meaning. And now we're in this situation where we're influencing everything in our lives based on something that we've decided is wrong or bad. Holy crap, what a mess. And then we get the crap we didn't want, right? And we think it's because of the event. But it's not. It's because something happened and we decided what it meant and we worked it and worked it and worked it, and finally we spiraled down into pure and absolute and unadulterated failure. We've all played that game, and if we play it hard enough, we will argue with people for our failure. We will argue for how our life doesn't work. We've seen it. We captains in class all the time. Yeah, but let me tell you what happened to me. And if we don't say it out loud, which I think is the first thing we get really good at as metaphysicians and students of the science of mind, we just... Well, we know how screwed up things are, no matter what Barbara says. And we end up with the thing that we said we didn't want. We talk about that around here all the time. The thing, though, is this starting point, this neutral event that we have decided means something. How can we turn that around? What can we do differently that would allow us to not fall into that level of despair? What is it that we can do? And it came to me in a presentation that happened at the ministers' gathering. One of our colleagues, her name is Sharon Rainey, did a presentation and taught us this thing that we all knew, but we don't use. This lovely idea. What if that's not what's happening? What if? Here's the deal. And Sharon's wonderful. Sharon's the sister of Meg McCarthy, who wrote The Path of Wealth that we did this summer. And they're both brilliant, and they're both wonderful, and Sharon just gave us this lovely little idea. What if? What if it's different than I'm making it out to be? What if? Now, the reason that this works is because, of course, we teach you to declare and decree the good in your life, to know who you are and live according to that. And that's great. And I will continue to seek to do that in everything that I do. But this little manipulation of the event, the thing that happens that we didn't expect, and we fall into that trap. How do you get out of that trap? Well, do you stand up and dust yourself off and declare? That's a great idea. But our mind will fight us like crazy, because it knows better. Our ego knows that we are just screwed. We are, and it will fight us and argue with us. But one thing that our minds like to do is think. So what if we just give this little tidbit? What if everything is okay? What if God really is all there is? What if, which is not very demanding, it actually is just an invitation to think. Maybe it's different. And your mind will, okay, we'll play with that for a little while. What if everything's okay? Wow. And I'm beginning to believe that our minds will actually play that game with us. That our minds will say, well, if things aren't going to hell, you know, maybe we can work this out. And the more you ask the question, what if? But you got to be good at asking the question. You can't stay in that fight internally and get very far. It's exhausting. You've got to be willing to give into it a little bit. And the what if is just a gentle, easy little way to take a different track, to test it out a little bit differently. But we have to train ourselves to ask the question. We have to be willing to let that be a possibility. And that's really what it's about. It's about opening to a possibility rather than being absolutely sure. Because when we're creating the mess and the thoughts that aren't going to work, that's a direct line. That's a direct line to the end of our lives. You know, it's like, oh. And we just focus down. We scream the whole time we don't want it, but it can go right down the rabbit hole. This is a little different. What if? What if this could work out? What if really everything is okay? Could we consider that for a moment? And what happens is it starts a little slow, but it does the spiral because life seems to move in spirals. A little more, and pretty soon you're actually in the flow with it. And it looks very different. It's spiraling up. But instead of spiraling down into a hole, spiral yourself up. Move up. And what's at the end, or in the midst of all of that spiral, when you're going up, is success. You get where you wanted to go. Now, one can argue that you're getting success when you're failing, too, because you're putting all that energy into failing. And that actually is a success, but that's a little twisted. So let's have the idea of spiraling down into a mess or spiraling up into the thing that you desire, that your heart desires. And that maybe a way to prime that pump and get it going could be as simple as asking a question like, what if? So, of course, this fits beautifully into the story of my life. I'm sure that's why this whole thing resonates so well with me. Most of you know what's happening within our organization, that there's an executive restructure. And tomorrow is the day that delegates from our communities all over the world will be voting online on this new executive structure, which removes the office of president. That's tomorrow. Now, that's a first step. And once that vote is taken, and it's our tendency as an organization to go with whatever leadership wants, and leadership wants this, so it's going to pass. So that begins a process of next February actually changing our governing documents, and then there won't be a position of president anymore. Now, I've been listening to stuff about getting rid of this office of president, for about 4 years. I mean, since we started. It didn't take them long. Some people very long to decide that they didn't want me there. And I looked at that, and what was going on? Events were happening. Things were being said. People were making moves to make something happen. And I spent a good bit of time resisting it and making it the problem. And then one day, it occurred to me that in my deep thinking, that I had always been looking at the end of serving as president and wondering what I would do. Yes, I will be here. Of course I will be here. But Barbara and I know about my reentries. They're not always very pretty. So if I'm re-entering permanently, we would have a lot of work to do. Let's just say it that way. So my thought is that, yes, I will always, this is my spiritual home, and I'll always be engaged. However, I want to do some other things. I started a book several years ago, got most of it written, and never published it. It's called Stop Being Sorry. It's a wonderful idea that I got from Will Rockingbear about how being sorry is a lie, and about how we can recreate our way of learning so that we don't have to be sorry or sorrowful or wrong or bad, that we can learn. And it's a great, I love the concept. So this is a valid book that I want to publish, but I haven't done it. If I had a half-time job, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could actually take Science of Mind out on the road and teach people in secular environments what we know. Might have to change some of the language, but it can be done. And then we bring this wonderful thing that we know into a greater audience in the world, beyond the walls. And it's Brian Byro, Carol's husband, that's offering to coach me into that. But I have to have time to do it, right? I even have, and I haven't said this out loud much, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm working on a screenplay. And I have this idea, and it was this great story about how this idea so clearly came to me. That there's a way to teach what we know to the world in a greater audience. And I've actually gotten the attention of some of the executives at one of the major Hollywood studios about this. They want to see it. What possibilities are there? But I can't have a full-time job traveling all over the world doing stuff and do this stuff too, so I'm wondering, how am I going to get there? Then life has put it right in my lap. And I'm going, this is terrible. Wrong. This is great.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. And I get to do it in a way that I've got this continued relationship with the organization, because that's the way it's being presented, is that I'll have a half-time job, which means I get to spend the rest of my time doing this other stuff. It's going to be great. And when I realized that this new job wasn't going to be an employment position, that it was going to be a contract position, I realized I was going to lose all my vacation. So I went to Human Resources and I said, let's calculate if I take all of my vacation when I have to stop working. Guess when it is? Tuesday. So I get 3 months of paid vacation to do this other stuff to get it set up. And Devon and Rodney are going to help me set up a website so that I can do some of the things that I want to do and have places where people can go and learn about who I am and what I can offer organizations and corporations and such as that. My life is so working. It's brilliant. But if I had stayed in this idea that the idea of ending my term as president was wrong, I wouldn't have gotten to do any of these things. So I ask you, in your life, what are you making wrong? What are you saying is bad? Is it? Maybe not. So I invite you to close your eyes. And I'm going to pose some questions for you. Think about these things. What if the event in your life that you have been calling a problem was actually a gift? How would that be different for you? What if you really could create something wonderful in your life? Something new, something different. What if you could be in that deeply intimate, loving relationship? What if you could have that job that feeds your soul? What if the aches and pains really could go away? What if everything you needed was really absolutely available to you? What if life really does conspire to support you? What if achieving your greatest desire could actually come true easily and joyfully in your life? What if this stuff really does work? What if? I invite you to sit in the question, what if? And find the presence of the divine, that you are whole, complete, and in love with life. as you open your eyes, I'm going to invite us to read this prayer together. I am open to new possibilities that my inspired life supports and lifts me up into ever greater expressions of love and joy. I am open to the possibility that my life is easy. I am open to the possibility that my God is so big that nothing can stand in my way. I am open to the possibility of a brilliant new what if emerging from within me. With great expectation, I open up to all kinds of miracles. My life is filled with sacred connections, joyous experiences, and all the fun I can imagine. With a new sense of awe and wonder, I gratefully acknowledge the good that is operating in my magnificent life right here, right now, and always. And so it is. What if this is real? Let's find out. I love you so much.